everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show. I'm out in the torch shop. I'm going to make another marble. And today the marble's going to be kind of basic. But I'm going to do some fume effects. And the first thing is I need to get some cobalt ready to roll. So we'll get going on the torch. And jump into this cobalt rod. So instead of having a stringer, I'm going to use this to make dots. But when you work straight from the factory rod, you can't make very little dots. So I need to pull this out to something smaller gauge. And I'm just going to keep it off the end of the rod. So I've got the handle to hang on to. And just give myself hopefully enough room there to make a good collection of dots. Try and pull this to make sure this stays straight, make it easier. So this is going to be kind of a half and half fume with half dots and half stripes. So I periodically go back and go through my old pictures. And I've got all kinds of pictures of marbles that I've done through the years. Pretty much take a picture of everything I've ever made. And I see stuff, oh, that was loud. See stuff out there that I did a long time ago, and I look at that and think, oh, that looks really cool. So right now in my mind, I'm trying to recreate something that I did a long time ago. More than once, I think I've done this pattern, if you will. But my experience has been that generally when I try and do this repetition, this is something pretty recent or pretty, that there aren't really that many of them. Anyway, the results tend to not be anything like the one that I did before that I saw this really cool picture. So however this turns out, I'm sure it'll be cool, but may not be what I'm thinking. So thanks for joining us today. I hope you all are doing well. I'm going to start this out kind of like I have the last couple of marbles, where I'm going to do kind of this wedge-shaped lollipop. Because it's a good shape to start with, because you got a lot of surface area to fume. And sometimes when you have very little surface area to fume, it's hard to get much density of fume. But we're doing really good here. We're kind of prepping up for the county fair that we have here in Hamilton, Montana, the Bitterroot Valley, which we really look forward to. COVID messed everything up, so they didn't have a fair in 2020. See, I don't even know, because it's all mixed up in my mind. But so I think this is going to be our 13th. It might be our 12th. Maybe we're counting the year that was off. I don't know. Anyway, we've been doing this for quite a few years. Same setup of our tents and booth space. Same torch setup. So that week coming up, the end of September, would be the 1st of August, I guess, when I normally would post one of these videos. There won't be one, because we're going to be busy at the fair. But hopefully I'll get some video from activities there, and maybe some live stream stuff. So this is going to start out kind of on the large side. How large is large? Got a pretty good mass going on here. Because this one, the effect is not to swirl into the core. This effect is to basically be an open interior with the design on the wall. So we get going with this big fat wedge. Burn out some chill marks. Every time you squish glass, you wind up with all these freeze marks where the glass stretched and cooled. Just to get that settled in. Now this one, I'm going to do gold and silver, fuming just straight stacked on top of each other, and then do cobalt dots on one side, and I've got this is like a maple syrup or one of those kind of slightly brownish translucent colors, transparent really, but I'm going to do stripes on the other side. So I want to start off with a good amount of gold. Get this down to the gold fuming flame. Introduce our gold right to the tip of one of the candles. And see if we can't figure out where the gold is shooting here. Once you get a little bit of gold going, it's easier to stick more gold on. But this is one of those where it's pretty intense fuming. It's important to have your glass clean when you're going to do fuming. I wipe this rod down with some alcohol right before doing this. It's always interesting because through the diadeinium filters, it looks really rosy gold to me. When I take that off or through the camera, you don't necessarily see that same color. Anywho, now we are going to warm this up. I'm going to add silver on top of this gold. But I want this base to be hotter than I typically would have doing silver. The heat of the base glass when you're fuming makes a difference. And I am by no means an expert in any of this. I'm just trying to share a little bit of what I do. So again, flame chemistry is kind of critical here. Let's try this one. Helps to have a better bead of silver. So I'm trying to get some silver on here. And it's going to have some variant across it, which that should work. So silver, when it wants to work, it happens fast. And now I'm going to go in and cover this face with cobalt dots. Which of course is like kind of pattern are you going to pick? Now, because this fume is fairly heavy on here, you don't want to put your glass down unless it's really hot on that surface. If your glass isn't hot enough, it'll just pull away. Okay, then we are going to add a stripe on this edge. So cobalt is really kind of the most favored color to use with fuming. But it's interesting to kind of try some different glass colors. Different levels of opacity. So most often I do fuming traps with just clear glass. This will be a little different. So this isn't, it's not quite a yin-yang kind of a thing, but it's a two different types of effects, two different colors. See how this goes. So this is one of the things I look at an old video, or pictures, of a marble I once made. But I don't have any documentation as to what I did. So these videos that I'm doing for you all are kind of for me as well, so I can document what I did. Maybe some years in the future I look back and check out one of these videos like, what was that color I used? Did I put gold and silver? What did I do? So we're heating in these lines and dots, but we're also in the process of burning out extra fume. So it's kind of an example of a marble with minimal prep work. You kind of jump in and make a marble that's interesting without going to a lot of crazy setup. We'll get most of our fume burnt out, and then we're going to reshape this a little bit. Alright, now, in the last couple ones I did a lot of twisting and trying to fold these edges to get those effects to come down into the core. And this one I don't want to do that. Let's see if I can control this. Because this is a little different effect I'm after. Still a pretty noisy pop there, sorry about that. So by having that flattened out, we kind of have this wide canvas to work on, our fuming and pattern. But now we're going to transform this into our cone shape, but without doing a whole lot of twist. So we want a certain amount of twist. This is one of those times where the punty rod in my right hand, I'm actually holding still. And the glass is soft enough that it's just sort of spinning there. But it's keeping me under some control. Once we get to where it looks like I'm kind of getting too much twist, I'll get out of there. Trying to do some of this condensing. And see what happens in those kind of creases, those valleys. Now it's compressing that pattern. And at some stage we may actually just kind of let it rest and let that core get stiff and try and get the heat to work more on the surface and less on the core. Okay, we're kind of at a point where we might start coaxing it with the marver. End termination is excuse me, a little skew. We're going to tear this out anyway. So the idea was to get this transformed from that flat wedge to a cone shape with a good degree of rotation, but not spinning, not having multiple rotations. This is starting to look like it should. Try and heat up this back end and get it to fall back a little bit. You sort of need the starting of that front lens section to get this cone area to make sense. Alright, who we got today? We got Hecklefish. From the Why Files YouTube channel I really like. AJ hangs out with Hecklefish. Talks about all kinds of weird stuff. Alright, I'll get kind of this almost like a bicone situation going on. Well, I can already tell you this is not going to look anything like the one that I had a picture of that I was thinking about, but it will have some traits similar. So behind the fuming we want some darkness. And the fuming, of course, is initially trapped with some color glass, so it's got some darkness already there. But I'm going to add some color in the form of some frit. We'll just do that open lattice kind of thing that I often do. And then we're going to put down some dark glass. It's actually a really dark cobalt. With this colored frit, we'll add some interest in the background. This frit is getting down to where it's kind of finer. You keep dumping out the same frit and using it like this, it didn't exactly grind it up. I don't know, you just sort of lose the powdery stuff keeps accumulating, or with the heat it fractures these chunks of glass into smaller chunks. Anyway, long and short is it starts out with a coarser frit size, particle size, and gets kind of crunched down to smaller stuff. But I want this to be an open layer that's not completely solid. So in this heating process, we let it just kind of beat up and ball up in its own little particles. So we're trying to let it do as much of that on its own as we can. Our shape defined a little. Now sometimes at this point I would add some fuming. I don't think I'm going to do it on this one. I'm going to let that internal effects stay there. On their own. Okay, kind of come along this rim. It's okay if some of the color and effects stick out at this point. We finally are into the sweet part of summer where the days are nice and warm but not too hot. The nights are really nice and cool. Just opening the windows, the house got down to 64 this morning, which is nice and refreshing. One of the things I love about living at 4,000 feet, we tend to not have too much humidity, have cooler temperatures. Wildlife is happy. Boy, we got our hummingbird feeders out, and it was a slow start this spring. We only had a couple of hummingbirds around for quite a long time, and now we got so many flying around I can't count them. I mean, it's not that many, 6 or 8, but they're extremely active. It's hard to know whether we have 6, 8, 12, how many are there, because they're ripping around, chitter-chattering. So they seem to like this weather. But the hummingbirds here, they come and go. For whatever reasons, our yard keeps maturing with different plants and brush and trees and whatever, but the birds, we get just an increasing diversity of birds. We keep seeing birds that we have not seen before here. It's really fun to have these phone apps that let you identify birds by, usually just by their calls and vocalizations. All right. Trying to find that lip there. Okay. We're off to the races now. But before I get ripping on the back, we have to decide if we want to do gold or silver. I'm going to stick to a gold theme here. The gold kind of disappeared on me a bit. See if it'll drop out. Gold has a tendency to be kind of like a heavy stone that sinks in the sand. But usually when you heat it up and you point it down, it falls back out. And you just hope it doesn't fall all the way out. Trying to be kind of careful setting that down so you don't dislodge that hot little nugget of gold that can just pop off of there easily. Okay, guys. I know this part's not the most exciting, but without this step, it wouldn't be the same. So we have to start making our list of things to take to the fair. We wind up, takes us 4 carloads of stuff to get down there and set up. Now we need to be ready for thunderstorm or rain or something crazy might come rolling through. Wind is always big trouble at fairs. And we do a double canopy, so these are fairly basic pop-up canopies, although their brand is undercover. And I've had real good luck with it. I've had 3 of these, I have 3 of these canopies, and never had one collapse or tweak or blow away or break the frame or anything like that. So we put the 2 side by side and lash them together and put stakes in all the feet, and then put the tie downs, whatever, at each corner, pulled out to another stake. And then when the weather gets bad, we put a dog tie out at one of those big metal screw in dog tie outs. Put 1 or 2 of those inside the middle and rope to the frame to hold it down. And so far, knock on wood, we've survived some direct hits of some pretty nasty storms. We used to have, for several years, a local guy that sold safes, like the big gun case type safes or something, and so they had like a whole collection of those that they put in a semicircle right behind us, and that always kind of made you feel a little more secure in the wind, because those things aren't going anywhere. But they used to have a canopy, big canopy that they would set up. And one year, in the day that they were setting it up, they had like a forklift. I wasn't there, but the wind picked up when they were trying to set up this tent, and it blew it away and trashed it. So then for quite a few years they just set up the safes out in the weather, and they're pretty tough, so they didn't worry too much about them getting a little wet. But they're not doing it anymore, so we don't have our security blanket next to us. And some people, unfortunately, they come to an event like that and they don't have much experience doing outdoor events, and they're really not set up or prepared. They're not thinking through what happens when it gets really windy. So I usually have some casualties. Years back, I had a couple different canopies through the years when I was doing art fairs. And the last one I had was called the Omnipotent, and that thing was a little bit of a tinker toy setup. It wasn't quite as simple as the Easy Up, but it didn't take long to set up. But that thing, once that was set up and tied down properly, the cool thing about it is all the sides zip together. So if you had all four sides up, zipped together, that thing could survive a hurricane. It was really impressive, really heavy gauge material. And a lot of these things, the side curtains don't really fit the frame. So when you try and zip them together, you don't, you're really stretching this thin material to the max, just trying to get them to zip together, and that's not too good. But that tent and my days doing art fairs was a different era of my life. The people they see us set up at a local county fair and say, oh, you should do this fair and that fair and set up your torch. And it's like, well, for one, at this event, I can go home to my own bed at night. And like I said, it took 4 carloads to get all our stuff down there. It's just no way. I mean, the idea of buying a trailer to haul this stuff, which I did have a trailer back in the day hauling stuff to art fairs, a small one. It would take a bigger trailer than what I used to run around with. But then you got to find a place to stay. Cost of all that is just not worth it. Alright, that's getting kind of short. So a lot of times the public gets the impression that all these artists just troop around in some kind of a gypsy caravan and set up in one park after another, and they have no idea that you have to pay for that spot. You have to jury to be in that spot. You've got all kinds of travel expenses and all your booth and displays and inventory, and not quite the freewheeling life that sometimes the public believes, but you know, if that's what they want to believe, that's cool. You don't want to upset the dream, because I think a lot of people see it as just kind of a cool idea of how to live your life. Nowadays they call that van life. People know what you're talking about, but back in the day it was van life, but it was just a little different as to how you made your income. So after this marble, I'll probably get on to making more mushrooms for the fair. So a lot of mushroom pendants. Keep running that play until it doesn't work anymore. So even though this marble is, technique-wise, pretty basic, nothing too crazy prep or whatever, but it still take a long time to put together this much glass. You know, for whatever reason, I get kind of stuck in the same size. It's kind of funny when I'll have a marble from one week to another, and it's only difference is a couple hundredths of an inch at the most. You can see that little spot on the end where it didn't get covered up with the clear. That's what you want. And actually kind of hang this down vertical and stretch that clear glass, let it droop down, and you'll keep that one little spot of color, will stay open at the ends, but you'll build up a lot more clear right down there at the tip, which really helps define that shape on the internal vortex effect. And I come back to the lens side of things and let it kind of pull back. I don't have as much control here, so I think we just kind of keep rotating this and So it's a little too much out of control. Alright, time to put lines on the background. We are going to do some Silver Strike 5, just the tan stuff, and a silver unobtainium on top of that. So only two colors, and one's going to be on top of the other. So see if I have enough stringer pulled out. This could be a situation where I use up too much stringer doing all these lines because I have to do them a little closer together. Okay, cook that in a little. Doesn't really have to be all the way. And you want to make sure all this is tied down. I'll leave your stringers cold attached and have them walk away later on. Okay, that first wrap we'll leave that alone. And then we'll just come in here and try and follow keep on the road. Can get a little stressful on the shoulders and upper back trying to hold this out here. It's not super heavy, but holding it and manipulating it for a stretch of time is not without its strain. Oh, tons of stringer. Kind of figured that it's always in the back of my mind when you're applying a long piece of ribbon cane or stringer or something. I think, well, what if I don't have enough here to keep the pattern? I'll have to improvise. Oh, this is obstinate. Doesn't want to melt in as easily as I would think it would. But some of that has to do with the heat base of the piece itself. While putting on that stringer, it's losing heat base in the core. Okay. Oh, I took my eye off it. It went off center. Okay, next phase is a little challenging. Wasn't quite hot enough there at the start. So we're trying to kind of have the flame lead in front of where the pick is raking. Oops. Try and cover that up. The pick is getting very hot. Come back to the beginning and kind of stick that back together. So I like to get this end heated up and try and don't push that end in very much, but just gently, and then try and scooch this this back section, this back third or whatever of the, I don't know what percentage it is, but get that back area to start. It's all that raking and dragging and stuff, it tends to kind of pull that out of shape on the outside. And there again, that can kind of coax that vortex effect to be a little more focused. So otherwise, if it's kind of drawn out, and then you go to shape it up, you'll push it up, and you'll be like, basically the bottom will be kind of flat. It's not a big deal, but sometimes unavoidable. But if you do get it kind of drawn out, if you can kind of make some adjustments to it before you get much farther shaping things out, it'll help keep that end from getting distorted. At some point here, it's just kind of easier to speed things along, is just to get this into the marble mold and that backside going. Let's see, I'm going to go to here. Adjust the flame, because once I go on in this next step, my hands are kind of tied up. Now this one, because there's nothing inside the core, I can be a little more aggressive with the heat. If you have effects going on in the core and you get to this stage and you start pushing the glass to build up the front lens, you can be distorting the interior. So with this one, without anything really in the core, in the middle, kind of be a little more aggressive, throw more heat into the middle. I generally just use the weight of the rod in my left hand to just let it feed in. I'll kind of switch it up one way to the other. And we get that circumference diameter to kind of filled out, and then focus a little bit more on just building up a bit more clear on the face. Stuff like this, I'm kind of using a bit of force, but I have to be gentle on the punty end. I don't want to put any pressure on that punty connection. Sometimes I don't spend so much time doing this step right here, just kind of getting that very front end condensed back. But it actually makes this next step kind of make more sense. kind of had so much glass sticking out on that edge. I couldn't really get to this edge, so I'll go back, make another pass. A little bit more focused on cleaning up this transition. Which is kind of weaving around. This turned out surprisingly wibbly wobbly. These each have their own character. The result of an organic process with a human being, and I like to just embrace the character each one has as unique patterns and results. Okay, now continue to skim off some of the rest of this. This is where heating up that end and kind of melting it back in, it makes this phase kind of more sensible. Sometimes we're kind of working around a little blob at the end here, and it's not as easy to see the surface and see where you want to tear glass off. Okay. Move around to this side. Oh, we need some more heat. And sometimes at this point, then I'll see some other anomalies. Positioning hands like that, one side or the other, whatever. Make sure you don't bump anything and knock it off the punchy. It's not a good time to lose it. Knock on wood. But for most purposes, once that glass on the end is liquid hot, punchy connection is pretty warm, and a warm punchy connection is a happy one. roll this in the L-marver to try and kind of center things up a bit. Limited oxygen supply is surged out. It's with 4 10-liter oxygen concentrators and a big-ass tank for a surge tank. And we melt off this plenty on the backside, kind of hang it so it doesn't wobble too far off center. It's a bit off center, so you come back and kind of throw some heat over that plenty connection so it softens up and lets it move just a bit. This one may be taking a little longer because it's a bit bigger, but sometimes I think that, it's not really true. I think this one is on the large side of size. Some of the final, to me, kind of the final size of the marble can be influenced heavily by that first step, where I was first making a gather on the clear rod, and I said I wanted it on the large side because I wasn't building up any other real layers. I wasn't going to be adding much to it in terms of bulking up the glass. But that has a lot to do with how everything is influenced from that point forward. So if you want to practice these on a small scale, first of all, start with a smaller diameter clear rod. And just start with smaller interior components. Ow. That thing's hot. Again, you might see this kind of what I call an apple shape, where I was pushing into the mold from the punty side, so it winds up kind of making the stem pushed into the apple. So we'll let it kind of hang. And let it draw that out a bit. I'm trying to be a little more gentle here. And it's slowly coming together and filling in that last little dip between the clear lines and the back color. We paused a minute there before going into the marble mold while it was still kind of flopping around. You don't want to jab it in there and make a big divot. Okay, well, it's pretty close, and because I still have to heat the front face and adjust that, I'm going to call it good on that back side. Okay, that should be the last heat on that back. Yeah, it made a nice crazy world inside there. It's fun to make some contrast. Sometimes it's color contrasting, sometimes it's shapes contrasting, patterns that contrast. Okay, then we'll get this pretty hot and wait a moment. Waiting. We'll come in real gentle into this marble mold. And that feels good. Keep rotating. Okay, I know you'll see proper pictures of this in the video. You can start to see the dots, the lines. So these are just kind of flame polish cycles. And then rest, and we are just about done with this one. Still took a while. I thought this would be a little simpler design, run a little faster, but apparently I made it a little bit larger. That took a little bit longer. We want to make sure we're patient. Last phases of this, I don't want to get too quick here. Okay, I think we're in the safe heat zone. So when I do this chill, I'm holding it over the marble mold, so if it did happen to just break loose, it wouldn't have far to fall. Hopefully it wouldn't damage it. I think we got it. Alright, man. That was very good. Like I say, it didn't match up with the one that I had a picture of, which makes me always wonder, it's like, what did I do differently? Because I think I did something fundamentally quite different. But similar. Definitely got the same concept going on. So we can throw him in the, or her, maybe it's a her, put her in the kiln. And maybe after a little break, we'll make a few mushrooms to go in the kiln with it. Anyway, thank you all for hanging out here, and we wish you all a very good day, life, whatever's going on with you. We really want you to take care of yourselves, be kind to your own self, give yourself self-care, and help as you can those around you. Be kind to others you meet in town, and we'll make a better world. So you all have a good one, and we will see you next time when they come back out here to make another marble. And I'm going to take a break. See you next time.